two things that stood out to me most about Zoey was that, one, she was a Korean American artist, and two, her entire being, personality, existence, like, centered around the fact that she was so dual and polarizing.
Number one on Billboard 200.
Meet REI AMI, the 30-year-old LA-based Korean-American singer-songwriter and rapper that provides the singing voice behind Zoey in KPop Demon Hunters. Once you hear her lore, you'll never be able to listen to Zoey sing the same way. Zoey is a supporting character in that movie, but she's turned into a full-blown fan obsession. While Zoey may just be a fictional idol struggling to find balance in her dual nature, REI AMI is living proof that art imitates life. Raised in a strict religious home, pulled between two cultures and battling personal demons, REI AMI didn't just sing for Zoey, she was Zoey. But what really sealed the role? A bunch of chaotic TikToks, a raw audition, and an origin story you'd never expect. The speaking voice for Zoey is provided by Ji-Young-Yoo. Based on fan reactions, it's safe to say that Ji-Young nailed the part, with fans begging for a spin-off series featuring Zoey. Without fail, Ji-Young manages to steal the scene whenever her character is on screen. But when Zoey sings, she brings an unexpected level of intense energy, an energy that comes from a darker place. That's REI AMI. Before she was REI AMI, she was Sarah Ye Eun Lee, a nice girl born in Seoul, South Korea, and raised in Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Her parents were deeply religious, the kind who made sure she played piano at church and stayed in line. From the outside, it looked picture perfect. But even back then, something was brewing under the surface. She wasn't just a good girl in Sunday school. She was also a full-blown anime nerd, obsessed with Sailor Moon. Her stage name? A mashup of Sailor Mars and Sailor Mercury. Rei, the firecracker, and Ami, the calm thinker. That duality wasn't just a cute reference, it became her identity. She describes herself as bipolar, and as she got older, it started to spill into her music, and eventually into Zoey. But before she ever stepped into a recording booth, REI AMI's real-life story took a dark turn that shaped everything she'd become. REI AMI wasn't just raised in a strict household, she was raised in a cult. And she didn't even know it at the time. Her family was part of Manman Central Church, a controversial religious group featured in the Netflix docuseries In the Name of God, A Holy Betrayal. Episodes 7 and 8 dive into the group's twisted history. But for REI AMI, it wasn't just a documentary, it was her reality. She grew up terrified of being left behind in the rapture. Every Sunday night, like clockwork, she'd have panic attacks, convinced she'd wake up separated from her parents. She wasn't allowed to ask questions. She was told she'd burn for her sins. Just imagine what that does to a child. That kind of fear doesn't just fade away, it buries itself deep. Her family eventually left the cult, but REI AMI says that childhood trauma shaped her. The rage in her music, the chaos in her energy, that all started in a childhood ruled by silence and fear, and it's exactly why her voice hits so hard, because it comes from something real. When Netflix started casting for Zoey's singing voice, they weren't looking for a typical K-pop trainee. They needed someone raw, bilingual, and bursting with emotional range. Someone who could go from soft and sweet to absolutely unhinged. About a year ago, the search team reached out to REI AMI's manager asking if she knew anyone who might want to audition for the part. Immediately, her manager knew the role was perfect for REI AMI. But here's the brilliant part. Instead of sending a boring press kit, her manager took a risk. She compiled REI AMI's most chaotic TikToks and music videos and sent them straight to the casting team. No filters, no polish. Just REI AMI being REI AMI. Ragey, hilarious, weird, and powerful. And it worked. They didn't even care that she couldn't hit one of the high notes in the audition. She was honest about it, said it was outside her range, and moved on. But her energy, her presence, it was undeniable. 3 days later, the offer came in. No callback, no waiting game, just a fast yes. And the wildest part? REI AMI didn't even know her TikToks would be the thing to launch her biggest role yet. The more REI AMI learned about Zoey, the more she saw herself staring back. Zoey's whole identity revolves around being split in two. Offstage, she's bubbly and soft-spoken. But the moment she hits the stage, she transforms into this fierce, commanding force. Sound familiar? That duality is exactly how REI AMI lives her life. In everyday moments, she says she's AMI-coded. Calm, quiet, chill. But when it's time to perform, that REI side kicks in. Bold, fiery, and unapologetic. It's not an act, it's just who she is. And growing up Korean American only amplified that split. She was raised by traditional Korean parents, but surrounded by American culture. And back then, Korean identity wasn't trending. REI AMI admits she felt ashamed of who she was. She hid parts of herself, trying to blend in, trying to be accepted, and it left her feeling like she belonged nowhere. That's why Zoey hits so hard. Her story wasn't just relatable, it was personal. There was one lyric in the song, What It Sounds Like, that stopped REI AMI in her tracks. Why did I cover up the colors stuck inside my head? It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, it was soft, vulnerable, and for REI AMI, it hit a nerve. Most of Zoey's parts were intense, aggressive vocals, bold energy, but this line was different. It asked a question REI AMI had been asking herself for years. Why did she hide who she was? Why did she shrink herself to fit in? And why did it take so long to finally feel okay being both Korean and American, soft and fierce, angry and gentle? She says recording that line wasn't just emotional, it was hard. Because it forced her to stop performing and start feeling. It wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about showing compassion to the version of herself she used to hide. In that moment, Zoey wasn't just a character, she was a mirror.
I got to learn more about Zoey's character and personality once I started recording the music. And I think two things that stood out to me most about Zoey was that, one, she was a Korean American artist, and two, her entire being, personality, existence, centered around the fact that she was so dual and polarizing. Off stage, in person, she's this bubbly, sweet girl, but then the moment she gets on stage, this whole different persona, this really powerful, dominant persona takes over. And it's just so interesting to watch her switch between the two. And I really just resonated with those two things because I am a Korean American artist. My stage name, REI AMI, they're two separate names. They actually come from Sailor Moon. I've mentioned this before, but REI is Sailor Mars. So she's the more fiery and bold and in your face kind of person. And then AMI is Sailor Mercury, and she's more timid and reserved, but just as powerful, but just in a different way, in a complete opposite way almost. And I just feel in my personal day-to-day life, I'm relatively chill. And if I don't have to perform, I'm very AMI coded. But then when I do perform literally and also have to be REI AMI, the REI side comes out a lot. And it's not forced, it's just how it is. And with Zoey's story being about why did I choose between two lives? Why did I try to shame all the brilliance in my mind? Why did I, all these things? So I really resonated with that because growing up in America, being raised in Korea, having very traditional Korean parents, but also having American friends and American friends with families that follow American ideals and traditions. And also because growing up, at the time, Korean culture was not mainstream. And there were many times in my childhood where I felt so much shame with my identity, with my Korean identity. I hid parts of myself. I compromised my beliefs, my values, my parts of who I am just to fit in and just to feel I was accepted and part of something. And looking back, it's it's really sad, but it's you're a kid. What else are you gonna do? It's very understandable that you do that. It's a very common story amongst many immigrant children, And so I think that aspect of Zoey really, really spoke to me. And with the line, why did I cover up the color stuck inside my head? I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled with recording that line because it required me to get really vulnerable. And most of Zoey's lines are usually really hard-hitting and aggressive, and it requires me to just just go in. But this part, like, it forced me to really think about Zoey and be like, what is Zoey going through right now? And like, what is she really trying to express? She's not trying to come off hard. She's not trying to prove anything to anybody. She's trying to prove something to herself, and she's being gentle with herself. She doesn't have to be like, no, she can be sweet and soft. Like, truly, because that's who she is. She is really sweet and she's really soft. And like, that's why I think Zoey's character is proof that two polarizing, vastly different things can coexist and almost be harmonious. And that, you know, Zoey isn't too much and she is enough, and that she does belong. Like, to be able to be the maknae, but also step up on stage and like be this powerful force is so magnetic. It's fascinating to me, and it's something that I heavily relate to. Like, I've never felt freer, I've never felt more seen and heard when I perform, and especially the heavier. Yeah, some people might be afraid, but when I see people raging to that, I feel vindicated, I feel valid, I don't feel crazy, I feel human. That's what it does for me. And so like, yeah, with Zoey, doing her musical parts was so cool because she's so cool.
Before K-pop Demon Hunters, REI AMI was already carving out a name for herself on her own terms. In 2019, she shot the visualizer for her debut single Snow Cone with less than $100. No fancy label, no team, just raw talent and a DIY attitude. And it worked. That video has around 10 million views on YouTube today. Then came Freak, her viral collab with Suburban in 2020, with over 290 million views on YouTube and millions of TikToks using the sound. REI AMI's chaotic snake-human energy in that circus-themed video made her unforgettable. By the time her debut mixtape Foil dropped in 2021, she had proven she could do it all. Aggressive rap on one track, dreamy pop hooks on the next. She even landed features with artists like Amine and Lolo Zouai, co-headlined a tour with Tinashe, and showed up in Rihanna's Savage X Fenty show. And now, her voice is fueling one of the most streamed soundtracks of the year. But behind all the rage and glitter, there's still a girl who's just starting to be heard. Behind the stage name, the TikToks, and the rage-filled anthems, REI AMI is still just Sarah, the girl who grew up scared, silenced and searching for where she belonged. But instead of running from that past, she's turned it into art. She's been open about her mental health, her cult upbringing, and the quiet shame that haunted her childhood. And somehow, she's turned that chaos into connection. Whether it's screaming into a mic or making people laugh on TikTok, REI AMI says performing makes her feel human, not broken, not crazy, just real. And with Zoey, she finally found a role that didn't just let her perform, it let her be. REI AMI didn't just lend her voice to Zoey, she poured her whole story into the character. The fear, the fire, the softness, the rage. Every note she sings carries years of silence, repression, rebellion, and healing. That's why fans aren't just obsessed with the soundtrack. They're obsessed with her. Because REI AMI isn't just playing a dual role, she is the duality. And in a world that still tells women, especially Asian women, to pick the quieter side, REI AMI is living proof that you don't have to choose. You can be loud and gentle, angry and kind, broken and whole. And in that space between, you can finally be seen.